Okay, I'm doing a quick tutorial on how I did this song, uh, beat breakdown, if you will. Um, so I'll start off with just the beginning. You'll get to the dubstep part later, don't worry. So I just have a couple effects layered, just because this part's more spacey, and the other part's very metallic and like scratchy, so I wanted to have some metallic and scratchy parts to tie that together. There's a kick turned, like a kick that I have turned way down. That just plays every 2 bars for a bit, and then the volume goes back up after 8 bars. There's that. That was not me, that was someone else on Twitter. And as for all the melodies, I'll just go one by one. So I have this in phase plant. So I made this, it's just a sine wave. There's a filter on it, which I don't think is doing anything at all. Yeah, but then I have this envelope, a little bit of attack, big release, another envelope, which is just, because this was originally a square wave, so I don't think this envelope's doing anything either, it's just controlling the filter cutoff. Then I have this going to the master pitch just a little bit. That's about it. It's very simple preset. Then I have another, also the melody for this is just chords stacked. Then another phase plant preset. It's a saw wave with some detune with these settings, quite a bit of detune, big spread, bit of blend down. I had this filter that goes up, a bit over every 2 bars, I think. Yeah, every 2 bars, so it just adds a bit of depth and like movement. And then a sine wave turned down. By the way, the saw wave turned way down. Sine wave turned down a bit. Another long attack, long release. Then stereo, just adding the width a bit, a little compressor, not doing that much, and then some reverb. Yeah, and then I think, that's about it. Then there's an EQ. And it's just playing the same chords, just extended longer. So that's a nice little pad. I have this OBXA preset, just playing this melody. As for effects, there's some DC offset here that I didn't want, so I just EQ'd that out. Bit of an OTT. Depth turned down, lows turned down, big delay. Makes it all heavenly sounding. This sub, which I really like. Very nice sub. It's basically just a sub, and then I have this a sine wave pitched down 3 octaves, and then this other sine wave turned way down, and pitched up all the way. That's about it. And then there's a bit of distortion, and since it was very harsh, I turned down the highs. Another pad. This preset, same pattern, just an EQ, getting rid of the DC offset. So that's all for the melodies. Makes for a nice little heavenly sort of thing. So here I have some more effects. Oops. Yeah, also I have the I Must Apologize acapella from Pink Pantheress playing the whole time. There's just a bit of OTT on it to match, or actually actually no OTT, it's just the acapella. So some effects. This clap that I made from scratch comes in, although it's basically just the Pierre clap. Just some highs turned up. Basic clap build-up pattern. I have this amen break. It's playing at the same time as the clap, so I wanted to and it goes down over time. And then some effects lead to a little build-up. That nice sound. Then there's an underscores drum fill. Some more effects. Which leads into this. There's a DC offset to help make it look cooler, sort of, in like the visualizer that I have for the song. And also it distorts it because it clips the whole thing a little. There's this pitter patter sound from underscores kit, bird sound from underscores kit, and then there's this little drum fill that I made myself that's like this is just there for clipping the whole thing a ton. I had the Sorry Days snare from Sorry Days by Quanic. I have this weird snare that I made a long time ago that isn't that good, and then I have Scream. So there's that, and then the master volume cuts out for a bit, and then it's not, this isn't an accurate representation of how the automation that I set up works. It's just, since there's a weird delay with master automation, it I have to put it like a full like quarter note. I think it's a quarter note, maybe it's an eighth note, full eighth note, and a little bit more behind for it to actually hit when I want it to, or come back when I want it to. So, and then there's some other screams. Yeah. Alright, on to the dubstep. So this started off really, really weird, but let me turn off all these effects on both of these. Oh, and there's some Zephyr too. So, this started off with this sound. I originally made it into a snare, then I changed it up a bit. It's a bad snare, so that's why I did all those changes. So some white noise, just a little bit, filtering stuff, attack, yeah, more white noise. I have no idea what that's even doing. But then there's this like little lasery thing, an octave up, and then a sub for that crunch, and then some more noise. This is just a really subtle, you can't even notice it. Yeah, so then that, I have the sub going into a different lane, so only the sub gets distortion and everything else doesn't. I realized I could have just done it in here, but I didn't do that. So the sub gets distorted, and then everything gets distorted all together, and then there's a disperser. So without the disperser, it's this. Does a lot. Then I put it in here, added even more distortion, makes it sound really weird, and then I split it into two different tracks. One was for making a weird sub, the other was for making a bass. So I'll do the bass part first, So I started off with phase jitter because it makes it sound like that. It's really cool. Great thing for sound design. Then a lossy to just mess it up, make it all wonky. Panks for a bit of transient shaping. More distortion, makes it really weird. Doesn't sound all that great yet. OTT. That's where a lot of the stuff gets brought out. It is very loud. Serum effects. This is where a lot of the stuff gets brought out, actually. So, start off with delay, and then just a little bit of feedback. It's set to fast. This is just making it more metallic. And then the mix is controlled by this LFO, just making it so it's like do has that whole thing going. Reverb also to make it more metallic. Have it on plate with like these settings, the size all the way down. Mix is also going up a little, so without those two, just add some width and textured stuff. An EQ. This is a weird EQ because it's sort of controlling the volume, but you can hear what it does. Yeah, so it sort of tames it a bit because otherwise it's super loud and it doesn't really have the whole volume going up and stuff thing. Then a multi-band compressor, the gain and thresholds changing, I don't really know. But that does a lot. Stomp box distortion with the wet a little down, and the drive again modulated by this. And then I have a filter, which is on the this thing. The frequency is going up a little. Without it, it's like, yeah. So it does quite a lot. The high HL width or whatever, all the way up, drive up halfway, resonance up a third. Yeah, so all of these modules are being affected by the LFO, and that has note latch on, so that's how it's doing the whole. Yeah, so that makes it all wonky. Shaper box here just to make, because it's a little weird in a bad way. A lot, like without it, it's kind of, there's not as much pumping to it. Big thing. Trash. It also has that weird click with trash. That's kind of annoying, but you have to bear with me for that. Basically trash, I just have the lows with this crazy thing, the sort of mid section with this crazy thing, and then the highs with this crazy thing. All of these, I don't really know how trash works. I just messed around with knobs until it sounded good, so I don't know what I'm doing. Then I have this EQ. Yeah. Now we can go on to this one. So this one, the sub is isolated. Then I added Hanks just for some transients. Distortion, OTT. I'm gonna mute this. OTT. Same serum effects, I think. Like literally the exact same. Does some more weird metallic stuff. And I think the same trash. Oh no, it's a slightly different trash. Yeah. Shaper box, same shaper box. This EQ to make it more subby. Distortion. And then OTT. So it's super, super crunchy. And then I added a bunch of weird effects over here to make it even more crunchy. I think the main thing here is there's a bit of distortion, and then there's a disperser that makes it more like glump. Like without it, it sounds like this. With it, it sounds like that. You can hear it sort of like a glop, glop sound. Yeah, and then it's just playing this weird pattern, cuts out a bit. Yeah, and since there's so much tail with it, it sort of sounds good. You just have to put it in the right place because it's weird and hard to control. Then I have some snares, kick, I have the Pink Panther's Hey, because it's the Pink Pantheress remix. Cuts out a bit at the end. Basically, it just continues like that for a bit, and then here, I realized that if you played it like this, there's so much tail that it continues with a cool pattern after it stops playing entirely. It's like you hear the like here, although the sub is completely missing, so I just added my own sub. Sounds kind of weird, but whatever. Other than that, it's just doing this thing where it plays this one note and this note. So every like bar, the tail takes over, and then every other bar, the original sound takes over. So it's like, yeah, so the original sound takes over, and basically it still sounds like cohesive, it just has a different sound. Yeah, and then here I have this tiny little fill. New snare gets introduced. Love that snare, but it still has the same old snare. The kick goes away, but the little transient stays. DC offset. That's just to sort of clip through this. Which is the Half-Life VR AI I haven't seen it in so long. One of the characters, one of those like old scientists, saying like, "Gordon, you lousy motherfucker, stop goofing off, or I'll shove the sample up your ass. Stop, fuck it." And yeah, and then it cuts off. That's the sound. But since he doesn't actually say the ing, I just filled it in the space with the whip crack, because hopefully then you won't notice that it gets cut off. This part, really like this part. I did this, I think, because I started playing it because you see, if you start playing it at a different time, then the whole tail gets weird. Yeah, basically, if you start playing the bass at a different time, it sounds different. So I just recorded one of my favorite takes where it sounded, well, I can actually show you. It sounded like this. Yeah, so I just chopped that up and stuff, and it turned it into this with a new snare. But since the bass, as you could hear, it's really, really muddy, so I made my own again. Yeah. And that's about it. I did some subtleties in the effects, like with the bass and stuff. I side chained it to the things because I wasn't trying to make a new bass here. I was trying to replace the old one with one that sounded less muddy. So you can hear the bass is a little side chained. But yeah, that's about it. That's the song. I hope you enjoy. Toodle-doo.